the latest and introduce.
Anybody here, a woman who has traveled to the Middle East, like I have many times? Hands? I guess you got the same questions I got. Isn't it dangerous for a woman to travel to the Arab world? What about these women? Can they actually leave the house? Don't they have to follow their husbands all the time? I started studying Arabic at Leiden University in 1984. So almost for 30 years, I heard those questions. And I understand where those questions come from. But it makes me feel awkward. Because somehow when Dutch people ask me this question, there is an underlying assumption that we have succeeded in women's emancipation in our society. And it's true. There are dozens of CEOs of national and multinational companies, aren't they? Well, they're not. Our percentage of female professors at our university is still at the level of that of Pakistan. And women in the Netherlands trying to combine their personal and professional ambitions, talk to them and listen to their struggle. Now I hear you say, oh please, don't compare our country to the Arab world. Things are really bad over there for women. And it's true, when you read the Arab Human Development reports, that in addition to the lack of freedom, the lack of knowledge, it's definitely the lack of participation of women that keeps these countries lagging behind of the rest of the world. That's why I'm here today, because I feel that it's really necessary that we listen to those other voices, those voices of women who have different stories to tell, stories of courage, stories of breaking boundaries in their personal life, in their professional life. Oh, it's this one. Yeah, here you have it. These women, one of them is sitting on the front row, you'll see her later today. These women have become like sisters to me, sisters who really encouraged me to reach for the stars, who really encouraged me to live my dreams. So ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present to you my 7 sisters of inspiration. This is Soraya al-Torki, with a small baby who will come back into the story later on. Soraya al-Torki, I met her in 1990. She was in her early 40s, and I was a young student of Arabic, and I was writing my master's dissertation on Saudi Arabian women's literature. And I had read her book, Women in Saudi Arabia. She came from Jeddah. So there I was, in Cairo, at the American University in Cairo. I walked into her office, and later she told me that she didn't have time, but she saw this Dutch lady, woman, young student, who said, can I please talk to you about your experiences? Because I'm writing a dissertation about women who read literature, who give voice, who are trying to find a voice in a country that is so segregated. And she said, sure. And she helped me. That was in 1990. In 1998, she got a very special space and part of my heart, because she was present when I delivered this young baby. This young baby is called Soraya. She's my daughter. She's 14 years now. And the first 15 minutes of her life, she listened to lullabies from Jeddah, sang by her namesake, Soraya al-Torki. And it made me so proud to give our daughter this name, Soraya. I don't know, is anybody here who knows what Soraya means in Arabic? It actually is the Arabic word for Pleiades, the 7 stars. So that's why I chose the title, The 7 Sisters of Inspiration. This is my Syrian sister of inspiration. Her name is Razan Zaitouneh. When I was younger, a teenager, I loved to read about the Second World War, especially the stories of resistance fighters, young women and men who fought occupation, who fought oppression, who fought for the freedom of our country. And at that time, I was 16, I always wondered, when I read about Hani Schaft, what would I do if I had to live under occupation? Well, ladies and gentlemen, for people in the Arab world, that is not a philosophical question. And it's definitely not a philosophical question for Razan Zaitouneh. I met Razan in 2000. She was an intern at the law office of one of the most famous human rights lawyers in the Arab world, Haytham al-Malek. At that time, she was shy. Her English wasn't very good, but her Arabic was excellent. And when she spoke about human rights violations and how she would fight Bashar al-Assad in a peaceful way, her eyes started to shine. And already at that time, I could feel the courage in her life, in her activities. And I'm not surprised at all that at this moment, she's one of the leaders of the Syrian revolution. We don't see women like Razan, Zaitouneh very often in our media. I feel that her voice should be heard more because she is fighting in a different way, in a peaceful way. She is coordinating the local coordination committee of Damascus every single day. She's in hiding because for sure, if the thugs of the Assad regime would find her, she would not live much longer. I'm sure you have all seen the outburst of creativity during those 18 days of the Egyptian revolution at Tahrir Square. I laughed my head off of some of the funny jokes made about Mubarak. You could see that people felt that this creativity inside of them could finally come out. They could make jokes about the president, about the regime, because they knew this was the moment where they would not be imprisoned for making these jokes. There was a lot of wit in the language. There were a lot of people dancing, singing. There was a lot of theater. And I'm sure that people who are following the Arab world know that there's a real outburst of cultural events. And it almost seems as if in the spring of 2011, this was a new phenomenon. Well, my Egyptian sister of inspiration, Basma al-Husseiny, would tell you a different story. I met her in the 90s when I was a diplomat in Egypt. And she taught me what creativity, culture, arts actually can do for people in their lives. In her own words, she says, you know, when people don't have an alternative in our region, in Egypt, in Syria and other countries, the only place they can go to is the mosque. So that's why they will be influenced by a religious view on their life. But when they have an alternative, when they can see laughter, singing, dancing, people will make different choices. At the moment, she's working on a project, and I really hope she will succeed to make a cultural center in the Islamic part of Cairo, because she feels that people in that neighborhood are deprived of other things than just religious priests and religious thoughts. Do you know these people who tell you individuals can't make a difference? Why would you bother? For a long time, people in the Arab world became complacent. They thought that they had to suffer by living behind this wall of fear and that there would be no way they could break it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Esraa Abdelfatah is definitely not somebody who was complacent. Her story is fascinating. She was a young girl, she was trained as a teacher, and in 2008, she was working as a human resource manager in a small town called Tanta, north of Cairo. And she heard about strikes in the factories of Mahal al-Kubra, north of Cairo, and she felt that as an individual, she needed to show a sign of support. So with a few friends, she started a Facebook page called The Youth of 6th of April. And within 3 days, she had 80,000 friends on that Facebook page. At that time, the emergency law was still in place, and people weren't allowed in Egypt to gather with more than 3 people in one spot. Apparently, that was the Mubarak regime didn't like her 80,000 friends gathering on Facebook, so she was arrested, and she was in prison for 18 days. And during those 18 days, this young woman, who was a teacher, a human resource manager, became a political activist. And I met her a number of times in the Netherlands and in Egypt, and her story is amazing. There she was at Tahrir Square, and within 18 days, she became a citizen. This is what my Egyptian friends tell me. Tahrir Square is more than just a square of celebration, more than a square of liberation. It has become a moral compass for us on how can we become citizens of the new Egypt. And Esraa Abdelfatah has inspired me. She really taught me how we as individuals can make a difference in our own life and that of our own community. This is my Iraqi sister of inspiration, Rana Abbawi. Almost 10 years ago, just before the Iraq invasion happened, I was having dinner with Rana and her parents at a beautiful restaurant in the old town of Damascus. I wish that we could have that dinner quickly. I mean, of course, I'm very shocked by what's happening in Syria. Rana's parents, especially her father, were on the hit list of Saddam Hussein. He was a member of the Communist Party, and at that time, in 2002, he wasn't safe any longer, even not in Syria. So they were invited to come to the Netherlands. And we were having a goodbye dinner because I was still in Damascus. And I remember that she was excited because she was a young woman, she was in her early 20s. What will I be doing when I'm in the Netherlands? How can I connect to this new country? If anybody had told us at that moment that she would have 2 degrees, that she would be fluent in Dutch, we would all believed it. Because she herself is very intelligent, but she comes from an intellectual family. So she had all the qualifications. But if anybody had told us at that time that she would actually become a Dutch citizen and represent the Netherlands as a Dutch diplomat in Afghanistan, probably we would have been surprised. Well, Rana left 2 weeks ago to Kabul to represent the Netherlands at the Dutch Embassy in Kabul. And for me, she's really, where she inspired me is how she has connected her culture, her background. She's rooted in the Arab world, but she really connected to the Netherlands. And sometimes she corrects my Dutch when I'm, she corrects my Dutch when I'm writing articles. She even was an editor of my first book. So I'm so proud and I'm also proud of the Netherlands that we actually are capable of receiving people like Rana and make her, give her a new home and, well, a source of inspiration. Many of you who are Dutch might know Monique Samuel. I wish I had met Monique Samuel long time before, but couldn't because she's like in her early 20s. I met her the first time at Leiden University. I was teaching modern diplomacy, and there she was in front of me. I'm Monique Samuel, I'm from Egypt, I'm from the Netherlands. I want to make something out of my life. Vivacious, wonderful, clever, witty. I remember the next time we saw each other was at one of the TV shows at the 11th of February 2011. And there we were on the steps going down to the studio, and she said, "Do you think I should dance on the table?" And I said, "Why?" She said, "Yeah, I made a bet. If Mubarak falls, I'll dance on the table." And I said, "Dancing for freedom, liberation, you go, girl." And she did. And I'm so proud of her. She's really a source of inspiration in her cleverness and many, many other things. My last sister of inspiration, it's also a mother of inspiration, an aunt of inspiration. Her name is Hanaa al-Rifai. She is the mother of one of my closest Syrian friends, Tamara. In 2003, when the invasion in Iraq happened, everybody had left. We were the only diplomats and experts left were the people who were sort of the pivotal players. Anyway, so there were no family, no friends. And I didn't feel alone. And it was due to Hanaa and her husband, Fahad. They opened their home to me. Every night, every weekend, I was sitting in their living room. And you know, in the Arab world, when women want to comfort you, I gained a lot of weight because she's an excellent cook. You know, it's these warm arms of the family. And still, I know that she says to friends of hers in Syria and Jordan, "Petra is my Dutch daughter." But I feel she's like a sister as well. And she has taught me one really, really important thing. Because I'm a traveler, I'm a storyteller. I love to leave the Netherlands and explore new things. But whatever your journey is, at the end of the day, closeness of family is something that really keeps me going in achieving my own ambitions. To conclude, now after the 9/11, people started to ask me different questions about the Arab world. And one of the questions that really did something to me was the question of a mother at the schoolyard of my daughter's school in The Hague. She said to me, "Don't you regret having given a name, an Arab name, to your daughter?" Imagine, an Arabic name, And she was like, she looked really concerned. She said, yeah, because you know, when she's traveling and she's applying for a job, it really might hurt her having an Arabic name. And I know that her intentions were noble, but I was also hurt by the ignorance of that question. And you know, for me, I'm a former diplomat, so I try to be gentle. So in that situation, I was so proud to tell her the origin of my daughter's name, about her namesake, about Soraya al-Torki, the beautiful, wonderful, inspirational Soraya from Jeddah. And one thing I want to tell you, and you know, when you walk out of this room, when you meet young women, please tell them about the inspiration of my 7 sisters. Tell them to reach for the stars, that when they're ambitious, when they really want to make something out of their life, they should embrace the inspiration of my 7 sisters. The curiosity of Soraya, the courage of Razan, the creativity of Basma, and the sense of citizenship of Esraa, the power of connection of Rana, the cleverness of Monique, and the closeness of family of Hanaa al-Rifai. I thank you all.